Objective. This video is designed to teach you about the very basics of orthographic projections. These skills are necessary in order to represent a three-dimensional object as two-dimensional views on a piece of paper. You will learn how to draw the front view, top view, and side view of an isometric projection using construction lines. Materials. You will use a T-square, scaled ruler, 45 triangle, and a drafting pencil. Before we begin drawing, I want to first explain the relationship between isometric and orthographic. Both preserve the actual dimensions of the 3D object, such as a tiny house, unlike perspective drawing. The difference is that an isometric drawing represents the object in a single view because it can show three planes, or length, width, and height, while an orthographic drawing utilizes multiple views of different planes like height and length and width and height. To understand what an orthographic projection is, I think it's helpful to think of a three-dimensional object as a rectangular prism, like a die. Depending on where you stand to look at the cube, your view will change. Every object has a total of 6 different views: front, top, left, right, bottom, and rear. The good news is that we only need 3 of these to represent any object: the front, top, and side. The side view can either be the left or right view. Today, we will draw the front, top, and right side of this tiny house. To begin, we need to create 4 quadrants so that there is space for our 3 main views. In the middle of your space, start by drawing a horizontal line using your T-square. Next, use the vertical side of your triangle to draw a line that goes both above and below your horizontal line. The location of where the views are placed matters. The top view always goes above the horizontal line, while the side view and front view go below. If you planned on showing the left view, it would go in the bottom left quadrant. For our example though, we are going to show the right view. This means the bottom rightmost quadrant will be the side view and the other bottom quadrant will be the front view. The top view always goes in the quadrant above the front view, so in our case it will be in the top left quadrant. When we are drawing our views, there should be a uniform border around each quadrant so that the views are easier to see. We can accomplish this by drawing light border lines 1 inch above and below the horizontal line and left and right of the vertical line. When drawing our orthographic projections, I plan on using the 3/32 scale on my ruler so that it will fit on my 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Front view. You want to draw the front view first because it shows the most information about the object. I want you to imagine that you are standing facing the front of this tiny house. You will see the roof, front wall, door, and 2 windows. The dimensions of height and length will be represented. The total height of the wall and roof is 13 feet. Using your scaled ruler, mark the height on our right border line. Use your T-square to draw a light horizontal line over from that point. The top of the roof will be along this top border line, while the line you just drew represents the base of the house. The walls of the house are 9 feet tall. Using a scale ruler, mark the distance on the right border line. Use your T-square to draw a light horizontal line. The total length of the house is 40 feet. Set the scale ruler along the base horizontal line so that 0 is on the right border line. Mark 40 feet and then use your triangle to draw a light vertical construction line up to the top border line. The vertical line you just drew represents the left edge of the house, while the right border line represents the right edge of your house. From here, we can add the details of the windows and doors. Using the appropriate measurements on the isometric drawing and your scale ruler, mark the locations for the left and right side of both windows and door. Use your triangle and draw light vertical construction lines. Next, mark the height for the bottom and top of the windows as well as the top of the door. Then, use your T-square to draw light horizontal construction lines. The final step is to darken the visible lines of what we see in the front view, the outline of the roof, front wall, door, and windows. If you darken the lines as you go, it doesn't allow an opportunity to fix mistakes. It is easier to erase and redraw light lines as opposed to fixing dark lines. Top view. The next view we will draw is the top view. I want you to imagine that you flew up from where you were standing and are now flying above this tiny house. You will see the roof only. The dimensions of length and width will be represented. Because both the front view and top view share the dimension of length, we can extend the construction lines from the edges of the front view. Use your T-square and triangle to do this. The total width of the roof is 8 feet. Using your scale ruler, mark the width on the right borderline. Use your T-square to draw a light horizontal line from this point. Keep in mind that this roof is split into two parts, a front and back, in order to create our pitched roof. This means that we will see a line where these two parts join together at the roof's ridge. The dimensions show that this split happens in the middle. You can either use your scale ruler to find the midpoint or halfway point, or you can use a triangle to draw light lines connecting the opposite corners. And then use a T-square to draw a horizontal line through the intersection. Finally, darken the visible lines of what we see in the top view, the outline, and the middle of the roof. Right view. The last view we will draw is the right view. I want you to imagine that you walked around the tiny house and are now standing on the side. You will see the roof, right side wall, and doors. The dimensions of the width and height will be represented. Because both the front view and right view share the dimensions of height, we can extend horizontal construction lines from the corners and edges of the front view. Use your T-square to do this. Because both the top view and right view share the dimension of width, we can use the final quadrant to help us relate construction lines from the corners and edges of the top view. You could leave this quadrant blank and just use the dimensions from the front and top view to determine the right view, but I want to introduce an alternative method. This method was used before the invention of scale rulers and is used to speed up the drawing process. To do this, just use the 45-degree angle on your triangle to draw a line from the origin of your horizontal and vertical axis across your unlabeled quadrant. Next, we will draw a light horizontal line from the 3 points of the roof that would be visible on the right side until it meets the diagonal line. From there, use a T-square and the vertical side of the triangle to draw light vertical lines down until we hit the appropriate horizontal roof lines from the front view. For example, this point would be seen as the bottom of the roof in the right view, so it needs to hit the horizontal line that represents where the bottom of the roof meets the wall in the front view. This middle point would be seen as the top of the roof in the right view, so it needs to hit the horizontal line that represents the top of the roof. The final visible point of the roof would be seen as the bottom right side of the roof in the right view, so it needs to hit the horizontal line that represents where the bottom of the roof meets the wall in the front view. Draw 2 lines to connect the bottom of the roof to the pitch. As for the wall, the left and right side of the walls line up with the left and right side of the roof. So extend vertical lines down on the left and right side of the roof until they hit the horizontal line that represents the base of the house. Because the doors are centered, you can extend a vertical line down from the pitch of the roof. The height of the door is the same as the front view and right view, so you can extend the front view's horizontal construction line. The last step is to use appropriate measurements on the isometric drawing in your scale ruler to mark the location of the door. It is 1 foot inward on either side of the house. From that mark, use your triangle to connect both sides to the height of the door. Finally, darken the visible lines of what we see in the right view: the roof, wall, and door. You have now reached the end of this tutorial, which means you should be able to draw the front view, top view, and side view of an isometric projection using construction lines. I'd encourage you to go back and pause to practice any parts you are not yet comfortable with. With these skills, you can now represent a 3-dimensional object as 2-dimensional views on a piece of paper.